workshop. So I'm just going to pick out the one that I found the most helpful, and although it was for labs, I could see it as any sort of activity in the classroom, and it was the idea of a hyperdoc. So the question there is, what is a hyperdoc? So it's a Google Doc with hyperlinks that you could include, a video tutorial or links to websites for other background information. You actually have a section where the kids can physically do something. So in my case, it would be the lab or activity at their table. And then finally, recording observations or answering questions. So as I had said, there's within this document is the hyperlink to figure out how to do a hyperdoc. So when it's shared with you guys. So if I click on this, which is a hyperlink, it would actually take you to the step-by-step instructions of how to create the hyperdoc, okay? But I can come back to that if people want me to go through it. But what I wanted to focus on was some examples of hyperdocs. So, and I actually went after my students did a project that was a group project that I think would have been perfect for this. So unfortunately, I couldn't use it for this activity, but they are working in groups right now, and it would have been great for that. So an example, one example, so would be a carousel activity. I know I like to use this and have different stations for the students to go to, but I always found that once I set them up in the stations, I could tell them the directions over and over again, and they would still forget. They would be mid station, their third station, they'd be like, what am I supposed to do again? So I liked the way that the presenters talked about this because they said it was more, it's the student-directed learning where they get to the station and then they know what they're supposed to do based on the directions for each station. Now, I only put a couple of hyperlinks in here, but the ones that they were showing us at the conference was they had a whole bunch embedded within the document. So it might be a video that the students go to. So what I actually created, I was showing Kim this yesterday, was it's very easy to create like a directions video. So then the students can actually go back to the directions and hear them as well as see them. So I literally just took these directions and then what to do at each station and made a video from it. So that's what this link is for. So they could actually go to.
In this activity, you're going to be traveling from station to station, investigating chemical and physical changes.
So I literally just went through and just read the directions aloud to them. And then I showed them, like, okay, here's how to, like, open up a new document. Here's, the next step that you would do. Then that way, if they did have any questions, they could just go back to that. They don't have to keep asking me. They could be at that station. They're like, oh, what did she say again? Oh, let me go back to that and listen to that again. The other things that I included in here was, so for this activity, if the kids were wondering, okay, I forget what chemical and physical changes are, I included a link that they can go to a website that gives them that background information again. So even if I already talked about it, we know that they'll all say, well, you didn't teach us that. Then here's more information for that. And I did the same thing with the Station 1 activity. So the only part of the activity that they had to do was they had to go to the link that I created describing what chemical and physical changes were. And then their follow-up to that were, here are the questions to answer. So like I said, I didn't go through all of these, but for this activity, I could actually have a video of someone putting half of an Alka-Seltzer tablet into 10 milliliters of water, watch what happens. So I know in science, we always run into things where the kids are like, mine didn't work like that. So then here's the opportunity to say, well, here's one that actually works, here's what it should look like. And then they can go back and say, okay, well, what did we do wrong? A couple of the things that they talked about with this idea, which I really liked, was that you could focus on, so it was more, student-centered learning, that you can really put it out to them and say, here's the activity, now go through and do like the station by station. I think it could work with more than just carousel or, experiments or labs. I think it could work with a lot. It also enhances the lab and activity experience. It allows the students to view, try out, and then respond in various ways. So then you have more of the discussions going on as opposed to, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Instead, they could say, well, why did this happen? Let's talk about the why. And that was one of the things that the teachers that were presenting at the conference were saying. They're like, you don't have to focus on what am I supposed to do or how am I supposed to do this. It's more of, well, why is it happening now? And the other thing that I liked, which goes back to and bodes well for working with special ed students a lot, is it gets rid of the multiple repetition of directions, but it still allows them to go back and listen to the directions again if they need it. But the kids that don't, they can just keep going. And it also provides for you to go through and actually do the multi-step directions. So I liked that as well. The only con that I found so far to using something like this Hyperdoc was if you are going to include videos, it does take a little bit of extra time to do the videos. We have a lot of software that we can use through our Google Drive for this, but some of them, the editing is kind of funky, so you would have to, like if you messed up, or like if you didn't stop it soon enough or something like that, you would have to start over, at least with the one that I use. I think some of the other ones that we were figuring out yesterday, so that's the only con, but if you really are just going to use it for directions, it's great. And I like the one that I use because it doesn't show your face. I know Kim has one that you can actually have your face on it, but I would just rather have it more for the kids who are auditory learners, because I think that that's really important. I do actually have another activity that I'm planning on giving to the students where I did the same thing. So it's looking at different web pages. So this would be after I introduced the excretory system to these students, then I would have them go to the directions, because I know if for some reason I'm not there that day, they're gonna all ask the sub and the sub's not gonna know what to say. So I would have them go to the directions and actually listen, and I need to update that, but they would listen to the directions and it'll literally walk you through step by step. Here's where you find this, here's where the part of the website is for this. Type in this information and here's what it looks like. So then if there were any questions when they went home that night, they could go back to that. Does anyone have any questions?
I came in late, but you're giving them that through Google Classroom?
Mm-hmm.
And then are they?
Or you could assign it through Papara and just
I've
create.
done through Hypara, but then you grade that document?
I'm so glad that you asked that question. So what the other thing, and this is what I was talking about, where they had all these little tidbits of information that I was like, wow, I never even thought about that. So I'm the type of person where I would go through and try to save paper by having all of the information and then all the questions on the same page, because I would photocopy it. Well, now I'm not doing that anymore. So one of the things that they suggested was just have this that they are able to view it. So that's where Google, I don't know if Hypara allows you to do the same thing, but I know with Classroom you can say that they can only view it. So then I include just all of the directions and the questions here, but as a part of what I want them to do for answering the questions, I'm gonna have them open up a new Google Doc and just answer the questions for me. So then the only thing that I'm getting back from the kids is the answers to their questions.
And are they printing?
I'm not getting all of this.
Are they printing that out?
Or I just have them send it back to me on Classroom.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, they could print it out.
Because your other one had a place that looked like fill in the blank, so I didn't know if they just filled it in there. The other document.
Oh yeah, the web savvy one, they can just click turn in and it would come back to me. This one is a little bit more true to the Hyperdoc format, where it's literally, this is something that they can only view. So I'm doing an activity right now. They're creating lung models. And so this is the directions sheet, and you can see a student's viewing it right now, that they can only view it. They can't type in it, doesn't make a copy for them or anything, because right now, this is just all the basics, this is all the background. And then I created a separate document that was just, here's where I want you to put the write-up. Whatever this is what you're gonna turn back into me. So this won't come back to me, it doesn't bog me down with all the extra paperwork. And that was the other idea behind the Hyperdoc, is that you're creating it so that they're only getting the directions and information, and then they're creating a separate document that's the only thing that comes back to you. So you don't have to wade through pages and pages.
In Hypara, that's taking on.
Yeah, because that's the thing, because you're looking for, okay, well, where's their answers within that?
Well, I had a PowerPoint, but still just going in and out, it's been,
Yeah.
time-consuming. But, I mean, all
Yeah.
the rest of it, yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. So, creating just the hyperlinks on it, so I said like this is a part of, this is actually linked in here on the Hyperdoc. So it's, you know, how to actually create it. So you would just create, you know, your, whatever your direction sheet is in a Google Doc. And I actually put in there, don't include any spaces for the students to answer. I know that web savvy activity I did, but it's a little bit more confusing. So for this, if I'm gonna be present in the classroom, I would just want the directions to be there. And then I would go through, and if there's any additional places I want the students to go, because I know you're like, oh, check out this site, this could help you, or go check out this video, then you can actually link it right into the document so they can be clicking around without you saying, reminding them, well, go to this math website again. No, I told you that already, or try this one because this might help you. You can just embed it right into the document and they can click around and it's already there. Yeah, and this how-to, I really did go through like step by step and like what all the screens look like. So if you are, I don't know if anyone like has done hyperlinks like in any of their documents, but it's pretty easy once you try it. But I was like, oh my goodness, these are all things I wouldn't have thought about to go through. So I included what like all the screenshots would look like as you're going through and how it shows up. So then if you wanted to.
So Shelly, how do we get to see this document that you created?
So I need to ask
Am I-
Julie
Early or late?
Early.
or on time.
On
We're
time.
supposed to be,
Early.
I'm supposed to be, yeah, we're late, right?
You're late.
Sorry. But yeah, this will be, Julie Fagoni's gonna put all of the stuff that, even if you didn't make it to some of the happy hour presentation, she's gonna put them all in one spot, so then you can access all of them. Cool. So it'll be there.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Kim, are you doing the DLO one now? Yeah.
Now where are we going?
In my room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff Daniels.
Alrighty.
What?
Yeah.
Man, oh man, what a day. I'm gonna go home and cry for like literally an hour.
Hey, you're on camera.
Yeah.
Never know when that hits YouTube.
Come on in.
Thanks, it's not supposed to help things.
That's why I feel like classroom, that's, I don't know, and I haven't played around enough with Papara, so I don't know.
So I
can
kind of like drop.
classes and correct it. I can do that. Otherwise, if I get an alphabetical, because I've 15 classes, so when I get an alphabetical list.
Well, I mean, obviously this is the first year, but like.
Well, in classroom, classroom
You have
doesn't
like.
go well for that, it's wicked annoying. Yeah, classroom, it alphabetizes everybody by,
Right. Oh, you didn't reach
But if
out
I
to-
had appended the name of the document with their class, then I'd have that class together and then alphabetize that.
Right.
You know, so you learn every time through.
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think none of our programs are going, they'll never get it. Right.
Shelley?
Hi.
All right.
You'll never get it.
Clara's here.
No. Yeah.
So what are Hyperdocs?
It's like putting hyperlinks into your document so that it includes like the directions that we were talking about yesterday with like Screencast-O-Matic.
If you need anything.
Bringing them to other,
I know you're good.
bringing them to other like resources.
Cause I won't be afraid to ask.
But
you.
also
Alright.
making it a little bit easier for when you have to grade.
He's actually.
Because I feel like I'm still
Of course
creating
he
like the
is.
fill in the blank
You look
worksheet.
great today, by the way.
And that
I love
doesn't
your-
help because then you're wading
Thanks.
through what all the answers are.
Right.
So this simplifies that. So it's just you're creating it so that they can view it, but then they have to create a new document that is simply the answers,
Oh, that's cool.
which I'm like, you know, it's just like these little things that I hadn't even thought about. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, that's, because I'm so used to paper and pencil,
Right.
just trying to jam everything onto like one sheet so I could just photocopy it easier, when this is like so much easier.
Are we waiting for anyone? How many signed up to that, for this walk?
I have no idea.
Okay. So glad that they're.
I have no clue.
Hi Megan, how are ya?
Good.
Hi.
So cute, little mouse.
Oh my god. What a dork.
Flush, oh no.
I can't handle it.
I can't right
It
click on
irritates
it.
me, yeah, I can't write things. So
Cool, I get so annoyed. And the students, there was one day I actually did the right click and they were like, you did it, Mrs.
Yeah, I know.
Magnata! I'm like, I know, it was awesome! And then I couldn't do it again.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Oh well.
Can't function with it. The dork. Additional notes. Alright, so this is Hyperdocs. So this is where, just like talk, just. Like to hear, what are we learning today? What are we doing?
Well, it's not like I have an agenda, Meg.
Uh,
So, I don't know if I should be here, I'm just gonna go. Alright, so, Hyperdocs, the workshop that I had gone to at MassQ was enhancing labs through Google Apps, but I could definitely see it being used in a lot of other ways besides just science labs. You know, like carousel activities, stations, things like that. So a Hyperdoc is a Google Doc that you include links that might have video tutorials or links to websites for background information. So if you wanted them to go check out like a certain, you know, map or whatever, you would include that right in the document. That they might have a section where they actually do. So it's like in-class measurement of physical properties. Maybe there's like a certain thing that you want them to try out. I know that bodes well for science, but again, I can see it happening in a lot of other classes too. And then the final piece would be recording and answering questions. So one of them that I had created was for a carousel activity. So the idea behind it is that you create just a document of only the directions. So you don't have like any spaces for the kids to answer, and they can all view it. So within that, you can include, so for this one, I have, you know, maybe the kids are like, I don't, you know, we've already talked about chemical and physical changes. They're like, I don't remember what chemical and physical changes are. So I included a link to a website that they can actually go and remind themselves of what that is first. So if they don't even know where to begin, then they might want to go there. Another thing that I had included in here was a direction sheet. So whenever you do stations or a carousel activity, you know you're gonna have kids who get to their third station, they're gonna be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I actually created a directions video that I embedded in here that the kids can listen to.
In this activity, you're going to be traveling from station to station, investigating chemical and physical.
So it just goes through and literally reads the directions aloud to them, but some kids need that, and then they can go back to it again and again. In addition to that, you can show them, so another one that I had created is this web savvy activity, where this would be a great thing to leave, you know, for a substitute, but then you're going, you know you're gonna have all the kids who are like, what am I supposed to do? And the sub will go, I have no clue. So that would be, you know, include the directions.
For the web
On
savvy
there.
activity, what you're going to do at
And you
this
can actually
page,
go to
you can
the
go ahead
website
and
and
type
show
in,
them, like,
down at the
here's what you're
bottom
supposed to
here,
do,
it says
here's where
have
it
science
is.
links code, so you want site. On this page,
So then you can take them through step by step. So rather than just saying, here are the directions, it's, let me show you how to do this. And then they don't even have to ask any questions, because if they don't know what to do, or if it's something assigned for homework, they can do it at home. But, so getting back to this is where the carousel or station idea comes in. So one of the things that the presenters were talking about was, as they go from station to station, you know, let's say I have them, you know, this is the do part, put 1/2 an Alka-Seltzer tablet into 10 milliliters of water and observe what happens. Well, maybe theirs doesn't work. So I might include here, which I didn't yet, but I might include here a video that says, here's what's supposed to happen. Because you always have the kids who are like, oh, well, why didn't that, and they're like, I don't know what was supposed to happen. So because they've had no experience with it, then they can kind of compare their results and say, oh, okay, that's what's supposed to happen, even though, and it kind of, it reduces them going to other websites or doing a quick Google search and getting some Wikipedia that's wrong. So we can monitor the sites that they're going to make sure that they're getting the right information. And then the last piece, so it would be, you know, watch or go to, so these are links to other websites about physical and chemical changes. And then the last part is, you know, besides the do, this would be the record piece. So when they're done, I would have them follow up at that station and say, okay, now answer these questions. But instead of leaving them space to actually write on this, so I'm not wading through trying to find their answers, then it actually directs them in, you know, the top part, answer the questions. So open up a brand new Google Doc, title it something different, you know, changes activity, and then answer the questions on there and turn that in. So all I'm getting are the answers to the questions. They've tried out the activity, they've watched the videos and background stuff, and then they're only returning back to me the answers that they have. So some of the things that the presenters were talking about, like why is it good to use these? Student-centered learning, so it really puts a lot back on them, and I know that yesterday there was the flipping the classroom where she was talking about trying to have it more self-directed for the students. You could actually send them home with stuff to do like ahead of time with the video, because then they're listening and they can't say, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You can be like, well, I walked you through the whole thing. Enhancing the activity experience, so it's not just taking the time, because we know we all take forever to go through directions. So it's like, okay, you don't, or they'll say, I forgot what to do. You can say, oh, just go back to the directions. Allow the students to view, try out, and then respond in different ways. And this was something that really like resonated with me at the workshop, was when they said the teachers can focus on the why, not the how. So not how do I do this or what am I supposed to do. They could actually then look at, okay, well, why is the Alka-Seltzer tablet bubbling up? Why would that be happening? Instead of what am I supposed to be putting together here? It also gets rid of the multiple repetition of directions out loud that you have to keep saying, so you can, again, go station to station, actually see what the kids are doing, but it lets the students go back if they want to and listen to the directions again, and you can still get through the multi-step directions. The only con that I found so far was the additional prep time. You have to create a video. I am glad though that I found a video, thing that doesn't show your face, because I didn't want one that showed my face. So it was just I don't like listening to my voice either, but it's, you know, better, I guess, that way. But it was only extra time. If you mess up, then you have to restart. So if you say something incorrect or whatever, you do have to restart with a lot of the video software. But the video software that's through Google is pretty good. You can upload it into YouTube.
Is that the screen castify?
The
Yeah, that's
Screencastify.
what I use it, because Kim and I use Media Core Capture, which is
Mhm.
something that, is that the same thing?
It's very similar, because she
Okay.
was showing me, but that's, she had her face. I was
Right,
like,
it's
I
a
don't,
nightmare,
yeah, I
because
know.
it'll stop and I'll be like,
And that's one of the reasons I'm like, wow, Kim, you're brave. But yeah, Screencastify. There's another one that they were talking about, Powtoon, which is more of animated, so you can take yourself completely out of it. But if you want to show them how to do things, like you can create like actual like people like walking through and like, you know, if you wanted to, or you could just focus on like the directions in general.
is embedding super simple?
Yes,
Google Doc?
and actually, the slides that'll be shared with you guys, I haven't sent them to Julie yet, but right here, if you click on Hyperdoc, I created a document that shows you how to do the hyperlinks. And it's like step by step
Oh, of
with
course, I see,
with-
it's so simple.
screencasts,
Yeah.
with screencasts.
It's just-
I mean screenshots.
Okay, great.
So it's all in there. But it's literally step by step, like what it looks like and, yeah. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions.
No, I like it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Even just the simple things of creating like just a separate sheet of directions for the kids to view. Like I did it for the project that they're doing right now, and see, we can see like someone's on it, but it's like then I'm not getting all these extra papers sent back to me, like or documents sent back to me that I don't have to wade through. It's like they're only sending to me the stuff that I need to look at
So
and
have
actually
you,
grade.
you've done it already in your classroom?
The Hyperdocs?
Mhm.
No, I have not. I've just made little changes along the way. I wish I had done it for the project that they're working on now. But I had already had everything planned and ready to go. So I am gonna try the web savvy one. I think one of the days that I know I have to be absent coming up. So, see how it goes.
Was that an activity that you had done previously, or is that something that you?
No, this is something brand new. and it's along with the exploratory system, so it would be after they have some information about the system, then they're gonna go check out these websites and then kind of tell me, just looking at the websites, who's our experts. It's good just to kind of go through and figure out, like, do they really understand what makes a good website, what doesn't, based on the information, and they know what the information should be going into it. So if they're looking back at it, it might be a terrible one, so they might be like, all right, forget it. So it's giving them the opportunity to kind of look at it a little bit more closely. But I definitely want to do one with chemical and physical changes, because there's so many that we do in science and the kids always get them confused. So I think setting it up as stations would be great, because then they can try everything out.
Later on in the year, right?
Yeah, I don't do that until later. But I could see doing this for like our final human body project. I could see doing this. So, yeah.
It just requires a little bit more prep work.
It does, and you have to do
So it's not something
the
to do
video
the night
recording
before.
with the Chromebook, so it's not like you can sit at your desktop and do it, because it needs the access to the camera.
But screencastify, like, you were talking, but it was.
It was what
taking
was
a
on my
shot of
screen.
them.
That's what I liked about it, because I was like, I don't want them to see my face,
Yeah.
so.
And was screencastify easy to get on your like, was it?
Yep, you literally, so you have to go to the site.
Oh, I do, I downloaded it yesterday.
Yeah, but if you wanted it, you would go to the site and then you would install it, and it would be through Google, and then it would automatically pop up on the site.
Yeah, I guess I
So,
installed it yesterday.
the only thing is that it records whatever tab you're on. So if you switch to a different tab, you would have to stop recording and then go to the other tab.
Gotcha.
So I discovered that when I was doing the Web Savvy one. So if you're within the same tab going to different websites, like, or you're clicking like search or whatever, it'll still show that. But if I started toggling between all the different tabs, it's gonna be like, you're on the wrong tab, we're not even recording what you're doing.
Okay.
But it tells you,
Stop it, switch
it tells you like an error,
Oh, okay.
so.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So hopefully that'll be, I think that'll be shared with you guys, and Julie would do that, so.
Nice. Thanks, Shelley.
Hey guys.
All right, last one. Like 15 minutes. Get up and move.
So this is the conference that you guys went to a couple weeks ago? Is that-
The one at Gillette, yeah.
Yeah?
The one on October, yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
We
No
got all
problem.
the names on one card. Shelley?
The other thing is, like, we can do this, but, I'll show you.
Okay.
We can also simplify. She's like, in there.
How come that?
That's all I got. So, it's like, their whole folder, book, they all.
I gotta go back and
They, Jack, that was the other.
Yeah.
Like, those are
I don't
just
even
the
know what-
notes, basically, like, I'm like, every year, like,
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah,
it's
like,
just
something
something
like,
I said,
I don't know, like, much changes, like,
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone to the other ones. I don't know.
And
Like, when I was
you guys
there
got
in
the
one
PDA,
class,
like, you probably
I
wanna
was
know.
near the end of the class, and they were like,
Yeah.
I didn't go to all the sessions that they went
Yeah.
to, so.
so that they.
We have
some notes for you.
I took notes, so.
Well, you can always, supposedly, like, you're putting yours up as Google
Yeah,
Docs.
yeah.
It's a little-
The casinos use like that, I think you like that.
Okay. Alright, so I'll get started. So when I went to MassQ, I went to one workshop that was great, not just because of the name, Enhancing Labs, being a science teacher, but also because I had a feeling that you would be able to apply it to different activities as well. So one of the things, and this was just one small part of the workshop that I took away from it, was Hyperdocs. So the question was, what is a Hyperdoc? So what it is it's a Google Doc with hyperlinks that you can include several different things. So you can include video tutorials or links to websites that you want to give kids background information. So I know, like, for me, it might be yes, we already talked about, you know, the water cycle, but maybe I wanna include a website that takes them back to, okay, let me just remind myself of what the water cycle is first before I get started with the activity. Or it could actually be a video tutorial where I go through and read the directions to the kids or walk them through step by step what it is that we're doing. Bless you. The second piece could be the actual doing, the activity piece where you actually have, you know, manipulatives or whatever that you want them to physically do. And then the last piece would be recording your observations or answering questions. So, the examples. So this would be, I know I like to use carousel or station activities. So one of the things that they had suggested was using the Hyperdoc for just that. So you have the several different stations, and at each station you have, you know, possibly like a video or a link for them to check out. Then you have the actual activity that they do, and then finally the follow-up questions for them to answer. So as a part of this, you'll notice there's a lot of things in blue because they're links to different things that I would want the kids to check out. So the first one is just chemical and physical changes activity, where I linked this to a website that if the kids forgot, they're like, oh, I don't remember chemical and physical changes. They can go back to that website. And I can make sure that it's a valid website, not like some Wikipedia person like putting something together. I can make sure that, yeah, this is a legit website that they're gonna understand what the information is. So that's, you know, I could even just give them the activity sheet, you know, or send it out to them in Google Classroom and just say, have at it.
Or you could
Because
create a QR code and have it.
you could do that, yes, well, if we had.
That was from
Yep.
yesterday.
Yes. But
Back
the
it
other
up,
thing.
Slow down. Holy moly.
I just created one last night, let's slow down, slow down. But the other thing would be is I know, especially in 6th grade, but I'm sure this happens in all grade levels, is that you always have to go back to directions over and over again, especially with an activity that might take longer than just a few minutes, because they forget. So the other thing that I included on here was the directions. So you can create, and this is what I was showing some people yesterday, is through Screencastify, you can actually create directions that will take the kids through what you're supposed to do. So right here I even linked them, and it's me.
In this
Terrible
activity,
voice.
you're going to be traveling from station to station, investigating.
And I literally just go
physical
through and
changes.
read the directions to them, but I remind them of where different things are. So when I tell them I need them to open up a new Google Doc, I actually go over to here and click on File and open a new doc so that they know, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. So this could be really great for if you wanted to even get them prepared the night before for some sort of big project that you have, and say, go ahead and look at the directions video that I sent for you. One of the teachers in the science department at the high school was saying he had the students create a blog, but to get them all set up and actually like typing in their email address, and he's like, you would be surprised at how long it takes them to do that. So he created a video of himself going through all of the steps so that all the kids had to do when they got home that night, so he didn't spend time in class doing that. So it's giving them all the background information beforehand. Then the other thing that was huge about the Hyperdoc that I really liked was just creating a direction sheet. Because I know for me, over the years, I was trying to like scale everything down and make everything fit onto like the smallest amount of paper space. But now that we have the ability for the kids to just create a new document and answer the questions, the workshop presenters kept talking about the fact that you want to just limit your Hyperdoc to just the directions and the questions that you're asking. You want the kids to then create a different document that just has the answers or whatever information you want them to send to you. Then you don't have to actually wade through what is the stuff that you created versus what is the stuff that they created. And I was like, that's huge. I've already started doing it with the project that the kids are doing for me this week, where I created, you know, they're doing lung models, and I created just a sheet of only what to do and the information and directions. They can all view this, but they're not all gonna get a copy, and it's not all gonna come back to me on Google Classroom, because then I don't have to wade through and say, oh, I should be looking at it, or I shouldn't be looking at this. Now I don't even have to worry about it. I'm only gonna get back the information that I need, which is what I need to grade. So that would be like the last piece of it. So they have, you know, the station where they might have something to look at. For this one, for the activity, they might do So they're putting half of an Alka-Seltzer tablet into water and then observing what happens. So I didn't include it, but if the kids, aren't sure what Alka-Seltzer actually is, maybe I would take them to a website of what Alka-Seltzer is and how it works. So then they know going into it, before they even start the activity piece, they can go to that website link and say, oh, okay, now I know what Alka-Seltzer is. And then they actually do the activity and then they can answer the questions. Another one that I had created was like a web activity. So because the kids, I feel like, are automatically, if they don't know something, they're quickly doing a Google search. And again, we don't know what websites they're actually looking at. They might not be valid websites. So I created this so that the kids could actually go through and determine good sites for information that they already know. So I would have given them the background information about the body system, then have them go and actually evaluate the different resources that are linked through this site. This would be a great activity for something that you have them do at home, because then, or if you weren't there, so this might be good for if you know that you're going to be out one day, because you can actually include the directions for them
For the website
that they can go back to.
what you're
And
going
you
to
can
do
walk them through
is
step by
first
step.
open
Here's
the
what you
tab,
type in, here's
Type
where you
in
find everything,
www.
so a little bit further down.
Choose code.
So I actually show them, here's where you type in the code and it highlighted it for them, especially for the kids who need that step-by-step piece. And then when you hit search, here's what comes up,
And hit enter.
and then here's where to find the different information about the experts on the website, so that if the kids were doing this as a homework assignment and they were like, oh, I don't understand the directions, they could go back and say, oh, okay, that's what she wants me to do. And they can listen to it again and again, or even during class time. So I saw this, yesterday when they were talking about flipping the classroom, but having them do a lot more independent work, at home, but I could see it happening in the classroom too. Because one of the things that I feel like this works really well with is obviously the whole student-centered learning idea. So you literally just give them the Hyperdoc, you don't even have to read the directions aloud, they can get started right away, because they can read the directions at their own pace, they can go back to them again. And then it's all on them. So you can just focus on, you can be circulating the classroom and answering any content questions versus what